Hey, and welcome to a full format video. We have a little bit more space and time to go into a little bit more depth, and I want to talk to you today about applying that 4:1 ratio that I talked about in one of my earlier shorts. And we're going to apply that to rhythms as well as to chords and song arrangement. Also, not everything is just, this 4:1 ratio and these numbers and this chord and this music theory. There are a couple of other really important things that I'm going to mention at the end of this video that I think are essential to music making. So I'm going to roll some dice here. Oh, dice? You're using dice? Right, dice. Well, I really don't usually use dice when I'm creating music. No shade for people who do, but I'm doing this to prove a point. I could, go through a whole example here, improvising everything, but some of the skeptics out there might not believe that I'm actually improvising. Maybe it's something that I already put together, right? And it just happens to fit these 4:1s. So I'm going to show you how we can apply this 4:1 principle to turn this randomness into something that's pretty musical. So we'll start by choosing some chords. I always like to start with the tonic at the top of my chord loop. I'm going to do 4-bar chord loop here. We're going to keep it mostly to the white keys today so that it's a little bit easier for you to follow along, also easier for me to play. And so we'll start with a C, and then I'll use dice to choose the other chords. So what do we have here? A 3 chord, 6, and another 3 chord. So what do we have? So 1, 3, so pretty. 6, 3, and back to 1. Okay, yeah, so that's E minor, A minor, let's see how that goes. Did you hear that? That's almost spooky. I snuck a C in down there on the bass on this last chord instead of the E. Why does that sound good? Well, look what we have going on here. We have E minor and B and G. All of these notes that are in the E minor triad, right? And then we throw this C in there, which is definitely not, right? And so we have something that's out of the key. And now that the C was on the bottom, so actually we should think of this, or at least initially try to think of this as a C chord. So what do we have? C, E, G, B. So it's a C major 7. Yeah, so we have, these are the harmonics of a C note. They're very consonant, but a little bit too consonant, right? So maybe we have that one that's out of the pattern. We have these notes C, G, E that make these very consonant in pattern sounds, and then we add one that's out of the pattern. And suddenly we get something so beautiful. So let's use dice to add a few extra numbers to some of our chords here. So what I'll do is the notes that are not in the chord, how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 notes that are not in the chord. And so I'm going to roll it. If I'd roll number 5 or 6, I'm going to re-roll it. 6, 2. So the second note that's not in the chord is an F, right? So we have C, and we add the F. We can do that as a suspension, where we just move the third up. That sounds pretty good. So what do we have? Maybe what we can do is we could drop that. So what's maybe happen? Maybe that E, that E is rising up. So it'll be. I like that. Yeah. So that'll be. So we're gonna make that a C sus6, and then this E minor. Ooh. 6 is too large. 1, so we're going to throw an F into that E minor chord. sus2. So we'll probably drop. So we'll probably drop that third down. Oh wow, that is an intense chord. So sorry, it wasn't a sus6. It was a sus4. And then I just rolled a sus2. Which is also an F. It's so dissonant on top of that E minor, I don't think we can put it right after that sus2. So I'm going to put it over here. And let's see how this goes. So, for it to be a sus2, it needs to be an F sharp. This interval, this minor second, is just a 2. It's just not harmonic enough. And then these are some spicy chords. But let's try it out, okay? Let's track this in. Maybe in a pad, right? Let's see what we have here. Our good old Juno. No. Some good pads. Oh yeah, some pads on bank 3. It's a little bit too hot. Yeah, there we go. So how's it gonna go? You got to take the VCA down. I want a little less high pass, a little more mellow. I love the way that release, but maybe the attack can be a little bit harder. In between there. Yeah, I like that sound. Okay. Let's track this in. We did rhythms in the short video, so I'm just going to use the drum machine on this 505 as my metronome. 1, 2. Ooh, I'm liking this. Tense, that last chord there. Okay, now let's try a bass line. I like the electric bass on this Yamaha. So the simplest thing that we could do with a bass line would be quarter notes, right? Come on. Did you hear that? I dropped out the 4th beat on that last time through, and it instantly sounded better. I mean, I didn't even mean to do it, but my fingers just wanted to. Yeah, so it's that 4-to-1 ratio. I mean, you just make a little bit of a change, and then suddenly it sounds more musical. Okay, 4 in a row is exactly what we can't have, right, to maintain this 4-to-1 ratio. So we can either drop something out, or we could add something in, or we could syncopate one of those notes. That's pretty good. That would work too. So let's just try some things out. Let's track that in. not sure I like that. Yeah. If you change more things than you should, then it also sounds bad. So let's check this in. That works. Why does that work? It works because we're just barely off of those straight quarter notes. We have that little bit of syncopation in the rhythm. That's our 4-to-1 ratio at the measure level. And then to apply that at the phrase level, right, I just changed the rhythm a little bit for the last time through. So now we have something pretty solid. I think something that we can add is a little bit of rhythm with our, maybe like a clavichord. Okay, now I'm doing something pretty intentional here. I'm going to make that clavichord really just hit those eighth notes, and it's just going to hit the eighth notes, hit all the chords. It's going to break this 4-to-1 rule for a second, and in fact it's going to be pretty boring. And what that allows us to do is it frees up some variation space, or some for what I'm going to add next, which will be a lead line or melody after that. And so by holding the thing together with something that's really repetitive, it allows us to have a little bit more freedom in another place. Let's track this rhythm in. 1, 2. Good. Okay. Now let's talk about melody a little bit. So now that we've established that firm chord progression, right, we have a steady rhythm and we have some tonality established. Now we can put a lot of variation into the melody. And so to prove the point again, I'm going to roll some dice to pick some random notes. I'm going to choose 3 notes that are in the scale, white notes, and 1 that's out of the scale to break that pattern. It'd be one of the black. So we have a 2. Oh, another 2. Now we got to get a different number. 3 and 4. Okay. And then we'll get one of these. And a 1. So that'll be a C sharp. Wow, it sounds very Middle Eastern, and that's because this is what's known as octatonic. Octatonics, it has 8 different notes in it. And so the pattern that we're making is here: half step, whole step, half step. And if we keep on repeating that, we get 8 notes per octave, 8 different notes per octave, as opposed to the Western scale, which has 7 different notes per octave. And so this is gonna have a pretty cool vibe to it. We have this very Western sounding rhythm and harmonics, and we're gonna get 4 very Eastern sounding notes on top. Let's see. I think there's some good lead sounds down here. Let's bring that Juno back in. So hot. I'm feeling pretty good about that. A little bit more bite. Cut through that mix. I want some release too. Can I get some release? There we go. Maybe a little bit too much, huh? Okay, let's see what we can do. Up an octave. that little riff that I had going there. So I'm gonna track that one in, and maybe we'll do a little bit of soloing on top. But let's track this in for now. Here we go. Here we go. 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Sorry, hit a foul note there. It's not perfect, but has some feeling to it. Should we try some sound effects? That's really spicy. This the chorus on this Juno has so much noise. I don't know if you can hear that. Maybe you can turn that off. How do we do this? Okay, I think that'll do. Yeah, so we have a little bit of spice there that we can add there. Okay, so now let's talk about applying this 4-to-1 ratio to the arrangement. How do we want to start? Not the pads. That could work. Okay, so let's see. This it starts with a little bit of syncopation there at the beginning, and then we hit that really solid rhythm. And so what we need to do is once we have established that rhythm, we need to throw something new in there. And so let's see what happens if we add the drums after it started a little bit. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3. Bass line. Okay, establishing things a little bit. Now let's add the lead. Drop something down. Okay, let's add some effects. Okay, now spice it. Simpler. One time through. Cool. How we applied that 4-to-1 in that arrangement there is basically as soon as things started getting boring, we started adding something in. What I mean by boring is that we were hearing kind of the same thing for at least 4 beats or 4 times around, and then we needed to make a change. And so that's kind of one way to think about applying that 4-to-1 in the arrangement. Now I said there are a couple of things that are really not captured by this concept of 4-to-1, this music theory, these dice even, right? And one of those is feeling. When the music connects to you emotionally, it can be really powerful. For me, it's super powerful. I mean, that is probably the thing that I love most about music, is when it makes me feel something. And part of that is the composer or the performer putting feeling into the music. That's really important. And the second thing that I think is important is meaning. Everything I've showed you here, there's no real underlying meaning to it. And for me, the best way to put meaning into music is to write some lyrics and sing them and come up with a song. Again, something's not captured by this 4-to-1, but it's super important. And so with that said, I hope you can apply this to some of your music making. Maybe think about these larger concepts as well. And I hope you enjoyed this, and please go make some music.